Hello there. How much more of this Brexit extension twaddle will we have to put up with? Firstly, please give this video a like to give my channel a boost, and I'm always uploading new videos, so please do check back daily. Now, Theresa May's former de facto deputy and Remainer, David Lidington, has now gone on Radio 4's The Week in Westminster programme, saying that the UK public wouldn't be upset if we were to extend the Brexit process a bit more. Everyone in London, Brussels and Europe is working, he said, at defeating the invisible enemy, and he went on to say, "Frankly, I think that's exactly what the people in this country and every European country would be expecting their governments to do. I've thought for some while, however much people don't want it, both in Brussels and in London they'll come to the view that some kind of agreed extension is probably just inevitable." And he went on to say, "I don't think it's in anyone's interest to delay things indefinitely. If there had to be an extension, perhaps it might only be 6 months or so." Now, I will just point out that where Brexit implementation period extensions are concerned, we either go no extension, or for a 1-year extension, or we go for a 2-year extension, and we can only extend the once. Under the Withdrawal Agreement Treaty, there is no option for a few days here or a few weeks there or a couple of months later on. It's quite clear where it says under Part 1 of Article 132, notwithstanding Article 126, the Joint Committee may, before the 1st of July 2020, adopt a single decision extending the transition period for up to 1 or 2 years. So, there you go. There is no option for a little extension, and I'm sure Mr. Lidington knows that. I'm also sure that he's aware that to achieve his proposed 6-month extension would require a change to the Withdrawal Agreement Treaty itself. And right now I think that certain Eurozone countries towards the south of the bloc would be looking to drive a very hard bargain to agree to that one. But not with the UK, but with the wealthier Eurozone members like Germany and the Netherlands, to try and get them to help pay for the economic fallout of the invisible enemy that the likes of Spain and Italy are suffering. And the Italians are feeling the strain of this current crisis at the moment, with no real help coming from the EU club it has signed up to. With The Guardian quoting Salvatore Meluso, a priest at a church-run charity in Naples, as saying, "They are no longer singing or dancing on the balconies. Now people are more afraid, not so much of the virus, but of poverty. Many are out of work and hungry. There are now long queues at food banks." And the article goes on to say that tensions are building across the poorest southern regions of Campania, Calabria, Sicily and Puglia as people run out of food and money. So I'm not sure they'd be up for a withdrawal agreement renegotiation at present. But to merely extend the implementation period for the 1 or 2 years only takes the agreement of what's called the Joint Committee, not the whole EU27. So one assumes that would be much less fraught with political wrangling. I would further therefore assume Lidington is flying a political kite. He's attempting to get the debate going, just to try and swing people in the UK behind the idea of a short extension, and then wean them off the 6 months and onto the 1 and then the 2-year option. And the excuse he's using is that we need to rebuild our economy first, before moving on with Brexit. And the leader of the SNP in Westminster, Ian Blackford, has put his oar in on this too, saying that a no-deal outcome to the talks would be a very chilling prospect. Talking to Good Morning Scotland, Blackford said, "On the back of the health crisis, Quite rightly, we've had to take measures to protect people, and that's meant that we've crashed the economy. Many people were talking about the UK economy shrinking by 35% as a consequence of that. I have to say to the government, it's the height of irresponsibility to then threaten this second blow to the economy if we're daft enough to go down the road of a no-deal Brexit. Both Liddington and Blackford seem to be making a big assumption that the European Union will not end up as a shadow of the one we voted to leave in the 2016 referendum. But further, what's the point of spending all that time, money and effort in trying to do the impossible of rebuilding what was? We need to start from the premise that we will be building on top of what our country already is, an independent, self-governing United Kingdom. And here's a simpler way to look at it. If you were planning on extending your house and it burnt down, which of these courses would you take? A. Rebuild the house exactly as it was, then look at the extension plans again, only to find that the Brussels planners are too busy elsewhere to OK the plans for a couple of years, so leaving you in limbo. Or B. Do you build your new dream house where the old one stood? But there's also more to it, because the EU's house has also been damaged in the process. So Brussels should also be looking at this as the opportunity to rebuild its economy on the same basis. Because if the Eurocrats think it's going to be back to business as usual soon, they might find that the Italians, Greeks, Spanish and even the French have had enough. And if Germany is expected to do the financial heavy lifting to dig the Eurozone out of the mire, then who knows what could happen. So from the UK perspective, it's great to hear that the UK government has rattled the EU trade negotiators. Liz Truss, the UK International Trade Secretary, has predicted that the EU will crumble under time pressure as the UK and US proceed with their separate trade talks. And she told Dan Wootton from Talk Radio, "The best outcome for us is to get a free trade agreement with the EU, similar to the ones they have signed up with Canada and Japan. It is true that the crisis should have made people clear that trade is a good thing, that having tariff-free trade is what we all want out of this situation. I am confident the EU will see sense and work with us to achieve that. It is absolutely right we don't extend the deadline. It is time pressure that will force things to happen." Yes, two sets of talks running in parallel. One with the US, where the president is keen to get a deal before the November presidential elections, and another with the European Union that will be very keen to keep its exports into the UK flowing as seamlessly as ever. Our UK negotiators must keep the pressure on. Now moving on. Looking back to when the PM first went into hospital and Number 10 played it down, I remember phoning a few friends and saying that this looked serious to me. And when he was moved into an ICU, that really did convince me something was very wrong. So it irked me a bit to hear lefties spreading their guff about it all being a hoax to get people to back the government. And it further irked me when some of those lefties said their claims were borne out, as it emerged that the healthcare professionals allocated to look after the PM were required to sign the Official Secrets Act. And the left said it was proof of a cover-up of some sort. Well, now we know that this was not a political scam and that the PM was not in good shape in there, and it was touch and go. In an interview with David Wooding of The Sun on Sunday, our obviously emotional PM said that he'd been given litres and litres of oxygen, and that as the indicators kept going in the wrong direction, the bad moment came when it was 50-50 whether they were going to have to put a tube down my windpipe. And he said he was also aware of the contingency strategy in place for a demise of Stalin type moment. And that, as well as the fact that they had access to his medical records, is why the people directly involved in the care of the PM would have been required to sign the Official Secrets Act. There is also the matter of what he might have inadvertently said in their presence, due to the effects of any medicines administered to him or because of any delirium suffered. And also the contents of any phone conversations he may have been forced to have with other ministers despite his illness. And who knows if anyone had to visit him, and how close were the number 10 security team. Not to mention the press coming after the doctors and nurses for the gory details once they knew who to target. And you do have to wonder if attempts weren't made to hack into their personal comms devices. Given all of that, don't you think it reasonable to require those looking after our Prime Minister to sign such a document? I do, and further, I would have found it very strange and very worrying if they hadn't done so. Wouldn't you? Anyway, if you want to hear more from me, please don't forget to subscribe and also press that little bell, or you won't get any notifications. And if you want to see more of me, buy a mug with my mug on it. So what do you think about this constant droning on about extending Brexit? Please share and comment, and thank you for watching.